$4 billion in losses for streaming. That's the claim that Bob Iger made to a large conference, telling investors that it's Chapek's fault. Bob Chapek, that CEO who was only here for a few weeks. You tried to use my second shower. It's his fault. Well, folks, we're here to tell you the number is way, way bigger. We've got the proof, we've got the receipts, and you can't miss this video if you'd like to know just how down in the hole the Walt Disney Company is. Hello, folks. Welcome back to the place that tells the truth. Unlike one Bob Iger, I don't know, maybe he was confused. But whatever the case, we have a different rubric for determining exactly how much money the Disney streaming services have lost. And no, we're not blaming it on Bob Chapek either. It's all Bob Iger, whether he wants to take credit for it or not. And this number is explosively large. And yet at the same time, folks, once you watch this video, I fail to see how you can walk away and not say, wow, Bob, you fell short of the actual number by, shall we say, astronomical proportions. Wowza. Well, folks, we won't hold you any longer. Let's get straight to the conversation with a panel that you cannot miss right now. This out of the Hollywood Reporter by Eaton Vlessing. Bob Iger reflects on Disney's streaming launch. We invested too much. Now, I'm going to scroll down here, and here's what we've got. Disney CEO Bob Iger gave a mea culpa. That means an apology, although I would say he gave a et tu brute on Bob Chapek because it just keeps et tuing.
Culpability, as in guilt.
That's right.
Guilt.
They're just passing the same buck between each other.
How do we do a second person culpa? Is it tea culpa? I'm not sure. But big losses incurred while launching streaming platforms like Disney Plus during an investor conference appearing on Wednesday. Here is the quote. As we got into the streaming business, and by the way, folks, before we read the quote, he didn't have to say this. I just want everybody to understand this. This was a voluntary thing that Bob decided to declare. So when he declares this, understand that not only did he not have to say it, but he probably is trying to spin reality to the best light that Disney could possibly hope for people to believe. All right, now let's read it. As we got into the streaming business in a very, very aggressive way, we tried to tell too many stories. Basically, we invested too much, way ahead of possible returns. It's what led to streaming ending up as a $4 billion loss, Iger told MoffettNathanson Media Internet and Communications Conference during a session that was webcast. Now, he would go on to blame it on Chapek. Here's what it says. Iger addressed a falling out with his handpicked successor, former Disney CEO Bob Chapek, whose tenure he called out for lavish and misplaced content spending. By the way, folks, let me tell you a little secret about this, because Bob Iger is he's just a scurrilous snake at this point. Bob Chapek had control over Disney Plus for something like 6 to 8 months. Everything that has come out, with a very few exceptions, has always been Iger. Every single thing. In fact, the very first thing that is coming out that was approved under Bob Chapek, Deadpool and Wolverine, and it's not out yet. Everything that Disney Plus has done up until now was approved by Bob Iger, and he knows Bob Chapek has an NDA on him, so Bob Chapek cannot correct the record. Bob Iger is a disgusting kind of man for maligning someone this way. Remember, it's voluntary. He doesn't have to say this.
And
Bob.
Let me give you a little language lesson about Bob Iger. We invested. Usually Bob says I about things that he thinks are good. We suddenly shares the blame, at least with everybody else, and particularly with Chapek. When he's speaking in the royal we, he's not talking about himself. That's the key to following what he says.
That's exactly right. So Bob Iger comes in after Bob Chapek is fired before a single thing that Bob Chapek ever approved could be on a streaming platform. Bob Iger comes back and says, it was clear to me that our structure was not working because we were removing accountability from those that were basically investing. The most capital was a mistake. Now, remember that every single item that was launched during Bob Chapek's tenure was greenlit by Bob Iger. So Bob Iger did all of this. And we're just now this year getting Bob Chapek material. So What about the $4 billion, though, folks? What about the $4 billion? Is it accurate? Is it not? Well, to find that out, we're going to go on over to the far left, far right. Oh, wait, no, it's Reuters. This one's largely considered on theme parks to be down the middle. Exclusive, this by Anaban Sen and Don Chmielewski. Exclusive, Disney and Comcast seek advisor to resolve Hulu valuation. This came out 10 days ago. It's old, but we're going here because it has the stuff we need to show you what's really going on. Here's what it says. Disney and Comcast are seeking to hire a financial advisor to resolve a dispute over how to value the 33% stake in streaming platform Hulu that the former will acquire from the latter, according to people familiar with the matter. The move is in accordance with the deal the company struck for Hulu last year. Remember, last year. Everybody remember that? Last year. Who was in charge? Bob Iger, last year. It is an action their contract foresees if JP Morgan Chase, which is on Disney's side, and Morgan Stanley on Comcast's side, are too far apart in their valuation assessments, which they are. JP Morgan, remember, they're for Disney, put Hulu at $27.5 billion in its total valuation. Now, Morgan Stanley, working for Comcast, says it's more than 40. Now, here's what I know about more than 40, Lou, and you tell me if I'm wrong on this. More than 40 doesn't mean 41. More than 40 means less than 50.
Right.
That's what more than 40 means. Is it 47? Don't know. Is it 45? Don't know. Is it 49.4? I don't know, but it's more than 40, and I can tell you that means it's less than 50. Okay, so Hulu on its own, folks, is going to cost Disney, because Disney's going to own every part of Hulu by the time this is over, and they're contractually obligated to own every part of Hulu. Hulu on its own is going to be worth somewhere between 27 and 40 billion. Let's put it at 35. So if it's at 35 billion, and Bob Iger is saying that they've lost 4 billion so far, then I think it's fair to say, and we've said this consistently, that at the bare minimum, the barest of all minimums, the minimum of minimums to end the minimums, Disney has lost $30 billion so far. When you consider that they own 2/3 of Hulu, when you consider that Iger is announcing they've lost $4 billion, and by the way, this is not accounting for the startup costs to build out the platform, which one might assume were probably in excess of $1 billion just to get started. Gentlemen, this $4 billion number is Bob Iger malarkey, and he's going to need more than one shower to wash it off of him. But I want to ask you guys this. Does Bob Iger gain anything for shareholders when he blames Bob Chapek the way that he does? I've stumped them, folks. I've stumped them, I tell you.
Not anymore, because the jig is up. Everybody knows, or anybody who's been paying attention knows.
He's a one-trick pony. He has just one thing.
Yes.
Blame the guy that came before him. I guess I can thank Bob Iger for She-Hulk and Echo. Willow. I guess Bob's genius idea was let's have remember the Willow show? I know that people are so traumatized they've blocked out many of these. But no, really, he's just the
But look at how he put it. Go back to that sentence about accountability, Pro. We invested too much. What was the was something about here, our next paragraph. Clearly structure was not working because we were removing accountability from those that were basically investing the most capital. It was a mistake. So here's the thing. Let us say you are alone in your room 10 years ago and you come up with this brilliant idea called, I know, I'll invent something called a streaming service that's entirely supported, no ads in those days, by subscriptions. Now, how do I decide how much to spend on the stuff I make for this service that people are going to want to subscribe to on a continuing, ongoing basis? I can't sell tickets, so I haven't got the box office. I can't sell ads, so I haven't got that. The only way I have to account for it is it bringing in subscribers? Question. If it is, which one is and which one isn't? And which one do you cancel and which one do you keep? And which one, You figure all that out before you ever dip your toe in the water, let alone spend this much money. You don't just say, well, we'll figure all that out later. Meanwhile, let's make a bunch of shows and have some fun. I mean,
never cancel a show.
This is all this talk about secession, and they talk about people with experience in media. And they said Peltz didn't have experience in media. This is your local corner candy store knows better than this, doesn't he? If he wants to stay in business.
It was a giant experiment. Streaming was brand new. They just said, oh, yeah, we'll do that. Like they knew it was going to work. Like they knew
when they talk about accountability for expenditure, if you haven't figured out how to measure it as you go along, you're definitely going to mismeasure it when you get this far in. It's just inevitable. Inevitable.
Yeah, and the thing is it just me, or does it seem like Bob Iger is like the teenager with daddy's credit card, where he just can go out there, just spend all this money, it's not his money. Well, he can buy all these properties, do all this stuff, start this streaming service.
Margaret Thatcher said the problem with socialism is sooner or later you run out of other people's money.
Exactly. Yeah. Great point to bring up there. But yeah, it just seems like such a mess that he's created over there. And as far as the streaming service goes, it would have made more sense, instead of investing and putting all that money into their own streaming service, just to license out the stuff that they're already creating. Well, and they don't have to keep any of the back end up and put all that investment in. But they saw that Netflix stock price and they're like, oh, well, we can do this.
Yeah.
But they didn't really think that through very well.
When you came up with that number, that doesn't include the opportunity costs of not licensing this stuff to Netflix as they were before, and suddenly cutting that huge income stream off. And let us remember that at the point of that transition, it wasn't like, let's stop making movies for 6 months, cut it off, and then we'll start over again under the new deal. They had productions in the production stream at that point who anticipated, as part of the green light they got to be made, that they were going to be making money from Netflix or Amazon or somebody else. So suddenly, even the ones that were hits didn't get as much of a hit as they thought they were going to get, because suddenly that avenue of revenue was closed to them by their own choice. See what I mean?
But isn't this a symptom of this is a symptom of modern day corporate structure of how you run this? Back in the day, if this was television, a guy that knew what he was doing, Lou, would not let this happen. Right.
Yeah, but modern day, and I don't want to paint with too broad a brush. I think, although we know what we're talking about, we often decry that word corporate as automatically evil, inept, and stupid. Yeah. And they're obviously not all that way, because some of them are actually making money, even at a time of terrible, terrible inflation and terrible, terrible COVID and everything else. Somebody is still around.
Executive control, I guess. This necessity to have these
overreach.
Let's remember that the core of this is about the board, as Peltz pointed out. Remember, the board of supervisors, that's what they're supposed to be. The board of directors is supposed to represent the stockholders as a check on the executives. They, especially for one of the issues that Peltz brought up in the matter of compensation, and certainly in the matter of holding them, as people were asking all during the Peltz thing, well, what can 2 board seats do on a board of 12 or 14 or whatever? What can he really accomplish? And what I said at the time, and I'll keep saying it, he can say, what if you're wrong? He can say, why did you do that? He can say, why should we spend money on this? He can ask the questions that Bob never gets asked, because everybody there is handpicked to be his, I can think of a bunch of words, but none of them safe for a family program.
Let me ask you guys this then. Let me ask everybody this. This is up to anybody in the panel, obviously, but when Bob Iger says that they've lost $4 billion on streaming, and then I can pull up Reuters, and just on Reuters I can say, well, you've lost something like 10 times that. And it's not hard. And you might say, well, they're making money off Hulu. So, you got to take that money on. It's like, no, that's the starting price before they ever make the first penny, right? They owed that when they first brought Hulu in, because it's always been contractually obligated. And listen, whatever amount that Hulu is making is not compensating $40 billion in the quarters that we've had thus far.
How much money has Disney made off Fox Studios? Didn't that cost $75 billion?
Yeah.
How much money have they
Not
made
made
off
anything
that?
back. Yeah,
Zero.
nothing.
I don't know. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, I hear, is going to maybe lose only $100 to $200 million. So that's
Not
not,
even
Fox under Disney has like an occasional win, but most of that stuff, like the Searchlight and all that, like it is so niche that I feel like they're releasing it under obligation. There's no way they're making that.
Well, but those little productions, Spencer, the Searchlight stuff is tiny. The
That's
Searchlight
true.
stuff.
That's
So they didn't
true.
spend a
Yeah.
lot to make it, is my point.
I
Usually
didn't
it's
even think
up
about
to
that.
the
Yeah.
producers. So they may not make a lot, but even a little, they can come out ahead because the
It
additional
all
cost
adds
is
up,
not
right?
there. Yeah.
one of the crazy things about them buying Fox too is I don't know if it's hubris. I don't know if it's just melancholy or what's going on. They've definitely taken their eye off the ball because they're not using the Fox properties that they paid for outside of the Marvel stuff. So think about it this way. In the Fox catalog, they're sitting on Miracle on 34th Street, for example. Let's just take this one because it's a holiday movie. You've got the rights to Miracle on 34th Street. With a budget of maybe $30 million, you could make a pretty darn decent Miracle on 34th Street, a remake, and you could put it out in time for the holidays, and you could probably make $200 million off of it just because it's a Christmas movie. Have they done that? No. Are they planning to do it? No.
And by the way, Pro, did you happen to, I know you did, when your guest the other day, the wonderful Dean Cain, was on, one of the things in his bio is that he's done 16 Christmas movies. And I guarantee you every one of them made money. So you know this one would.
They should hire him for Miracle. But Nick, your thought?
I was just going to say, you would think that they would make money on that, and they could. But knowing Disney, they'd make it for the modern day audience, and people would completely be turned off by it, and nobody would go watch it.
Well, let's put it this way. If Bob Iger ever makes money on Disney Plus, it'll be a Miracle on Dopey Drive.
And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of every age, background, creed, and everything else you can think of, we've come to the end again, and it was a joy having you here with us. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked what you saw, consider clicking the like button, share, subscribe, click it, stick it to the algorithms, it's the notification bell, and drop a comment down below, low. Let us know what's on your mind. Folks, don't forget that the Pro Show is live this Tuesday at noon Eastern with Drunk 3PO. Jay is on his way, and we'll be having a great time over there, folks. Come on by. Help us have an even better day with your presence. Folks, wherever you are and whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing, and as always, keep having fun.